about creating value from brownfields exploration. Ian's a geologist with over 40 years of experience. He first started his career as a geological surveyor of New South Wales, and worked throughout Australia, later throughout Australia and the Asia Pacific region on brownfields and greenfields exploration. Later, Ian joined Anglo American. In 2001, he was Vice President of Exploration, with responsibilities for the Asia Pacific, Africa, Asia Pacific, and he was based in Perth and Johannesburg. He's a wide commodity portfolio experience, including zinc, copper, nickel, PGE, coal, and iron ore exploration. Ian's now retired, but he's now working as a resource-focused consultant.
Semi-retired.
Semi-retired. Thank you, Ben.
My wife thinks I'm retired, but I haven't told her. So, it occurred to me a couple of years ago when I got an invitation from Ross Lard down at Codes to give a presentation on brownfields exploration to the MSc students down there, part of the Masters of Exploration Geology. But actually, I had done an awful lot of brownfields exploration. It never quite twigged with me because I love greenfields, remote work and so on. Up.
Yeah, just bring it up a bit.
And yeah, it's oh no, it's gone off again.
Sorry, yeah, so that's better, yeah. So no, it's interesting, looking back on my career, I've done an awful lot of brownfield stuff in some of the terrains around Australia and overseas. And, some of the most challenging environments around Broken Hill and Mount Isa in Western Australia as well. And so I hope I'm coming at this from an operator's perspective, so some of my experiences are very much bought into this. I found brownfields a very intellectual game. Greenfields is a bit more like playing battleships, but with in the brownfield space, you've got an awful lot of advantages and things that can help you along. And it's really your brain power and what you make of it that delivers the value. So an operator's perspective, okay, Matt, she's gone AWOL again.
No, she's up on the screen.
Great, okay. So it's not, but it's not coming up on my screen. All right, okay.
Can you live with that?
Not really. Okay, so let's do this. Yeah, okay, well I guess I'll have to do it with it that way. Don't mind me looking backwards. Okay, there's a few things I'd like to talk about today, but there's a range of things I won't go through those in detail. But firstly, a definition of brownfields. I think I like to use an economic definition. So where does brownfields stop and start? Brownfields is really, to my way of thinking, within the economic distance or economic area of influence of the operation. Once you get beyond that boundary, then you're off into greenfield space, and then beyond that again, you're talking asteroids. But I like to look at the three breakup here: in mine, right within the life of mine envelope of the operation, very operational space. Brownfields out to that economic envelope in terms of exploration, and then greenfields a bit further along. It's slow, isn't it? Don't know what's happening, man. Nothing. No. Anyway, I'll keep talking. What was the next slide? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that economic boundary is very important, because within that space, the brownfield space, discoveries are worth more to you as an operator than they are to anybody else. And if you've got competitors working in that space, within that brownfield space, they're actually working largely for you, because you can extract much greater value out of that operation than they can. I'd like to talk a little bit about what are some of the drivers to go to brownfields exploration. I guess everybody in this room is at one stage or another being involved in brownfields exploration, and often the very first thing that comes to mind in terms of what are the drivers are simply replacing reserves. The fact is your mine is running out of ore, How do you go about finding some more? Well, you do some exploration. The second kind of way of operating is, or second kind of driver, is a little bit allied to that, but it's actually a bit more than just replacing reserves. It's actually growing the company, looking to maximise your return on investment in your asset by creating extra value. In other words, you're looking to improve the quality, which is a term we've heard something today about, and also or improve the actual tonnage. So actually adding more to the operation. Third point, I think, one of the things that often is not really played up too much in terms of brownfields exploration is leveraging the information base you have. You're the explorer, you're the one with that information base. If you're the operator, you've got an awful lot of information, you've got time, you've got capability to make use of it. So I can see a strong case for creating value from what you've already got in your map drawers and your filing cabinets, leveraging that knowledge, the mapping and so on, and also you've got a chance to leverage new technology often before others can do so. So I always looked at it like in terms of securing our backyard, like the Isa Valley when we were working there, and in other operations as well. And the fourth driver in terms of brownfields exploration was to lower the exploration portfolio risk, and we've heard this mentioned quite a few times today. It's a very common strategic choice in very difficult times, like we're in at the moment. It's a very rational choice. And the idea here is to create value by focusing all of your exploration dollars back into the home territory, and then increasing the potential for success, lowering the risk profile. But the other consideration to this, which is not often talked about and I think is really important, is it gives you the chance of maintaining your capability and your capacity. Build your credibility with the company, lower costs, particularly when your company has lost any stomach for greenfields exploration. And everyone in this room has been through that. So four reasons, or four key drivers, four main drivers. There's quite a few others, of course, but replace your reserves, maximise your return on investment by growing the business, leveraging your information base, and then lowering your exploration portfolio risk. And in terms of this last one, the MEG numbers, or the SNL numbers there, show the dramatic decrease in exploration money spent on greenfields and the dramatic increase in the amount of money spent on brownfields globally. And you can see there they're now meeting in 2014 at about 30% of company expenditures on exploration. So greenfields is being hammered, brownfields is seeing a lot more money, and that should return some useful value to companies by new discoveries in brownfields areas, but not delivering the new discoveries in greenfields, which is a real problem. I was going to talk about strategies, but in fact, strategies are very, very operationally dependent. So there's many ways of looking at strategy in brownfields. I thought a better way of talking about this would be to talk about tactics, because they're really much more at home in terms of what we're doing. And many of these will resonate with all of you probably. I mean, one of the getting the job done. How do you go about doing brownfields exploration? These are some of the features that came up during my career. The first one is, for God's sake, test the obvious. I was talking to somebody today about a gold deposit being found underneath. It was Nick, wasn't it? I don't think he's here now. Talking about a gold deposit found underneath their haul road. So you were busily driving over the top of one of your greatest assets. So why didn't you know that there was something under the haul road? Testing everything obvious, outcropping mineralisation, outstanding anomalies, very important. And all the less obvious anomalies, know about them, rank them, and then parcel them up for future exploration. And curious, I think it was you, Cam, that mentioned being curious. Was it someone mentioned? Look, being curious is really important. Any exploration geologist in a brownfields environment who doesn't know every inch of their territory, I think that's not a good look. Go over the next hill, see what's on the other side of that hill. Innovate, and innovation's a big thing at the moment. It's a big deal, and it's easy to phrase to come off the tongue, but In terms of brownfields exploration, it's a sequential generational process. So you're always having to innovate. New ideas are really important. Encourage R&D, innovative thinking, new tools, geophysics, geochem, of course, and data visualization, and also 3D geology has been mentioned here today as well. I see those as being very, very powerful in the future in brownfields work. New eyes, encourage input from as many sources as possible, because you don't know everything. And I actually think it's quite important that teams turn over. So you do get new members in and old members out, so that you do maintain your corporate memory, but you do have new ideas and new people banging the rocks for you. So you're still getting the job done. Maximise the value of that brownfields data and information. You're the one with all of that information, the baseline geophysics and mapping, and you're also the ones with the ability to integrate and understand that data. It's a great value proposition in its own right. So make use of it. Schedule very regular brownfields reviews. I found this the most useful process of all. And you involve people from outside. I'm not talking about quarterly or annual, internal things. I'm talking about really turning over the entire thing with a major rethink of the whole thing, bringing people out from outside, the outside, inside people, provoke alternative thinking, involve the uninvolved so that you do get a different way of looking at things. And lastly, working with the cycles of enthusiasm. We all know what these are. In any kind of endeavour like this, there are phases of everyone's right for you and then they're not, and then there's metal prices go down. And so being able to understand that those cycles of enthusiasm are going to come and go, work with them. They can be your friend actually at times, but you can't do everything all at once. A few other ones here, recognising the limits to feasible exploration possibilities. With our current technology, our current knowledge, our current capabilities, we can only do so much. But remember that and be prepared to come back when something changes. And my experience has been, the last few years, that's been a very important criterion. The mine manager is your best friend. If you're working in a brownfields environment, the mine manager, he or she, can make or break your programs. And I think it's really, really important to get to know that person. And I found the experience incredibly rewarding in a couple of our brownfield sites when I was working for Anglo American, to have the mine, all the people on the mine, but especially the mine manager on your side. And that last point there, in terms of tactics, it's a great environment to work. It's a controlled environment. Most of the community stuff is done by someone else. All the difficult things have been done. Safety is under control. Can be a challenging regulatory environment, but essentially you've taken away some of those other pressures and you can focus very much on the technical. So just wrapping up some of that in terms of what I see as success factors, sound technical ideas and programs. You've got to really know the geology, and that's a delightful challenge to be able to understand the geology of an area that's relatively controlled. Technical innovation, be curious. The business, support of the business, and then managing the stakeholders, really, really important. Clever people and team goals. Actually, you do need really good people to do brownfields exploration well. And you do need local champions, very critical factors. Excellent data management, maintenance and usage. This is a generational game. It's not going to be done next week or the week after. You'll be here for the time of the operation, which might be 20 or 30 years. So managing the data so that it doesn't get lost, in my view, is a really important aspect of that. And one of the things I would really like to see is prospect or project portfolio databases, so that somebody coming in 20 years' time can see what you've done and understand what you've done. Explorer independence. This is an interesting one. In Anglo, we had what was called Cat 3 exploration. It wasn't funded by the mine sites. It was funded by the centre or the business unit. And what that meant was that the explorers were doing exploration around the mine, but they were not dependent for money on the mine. And we all know what mines are like. Cash flow, production problems. Exploration is the first thing to get knocked off the bottom. So in terms of funding. So having that independence via funding coming from an external group was a really powerful driver, in my view, for success in brownfields exploration that Anglo saw in the last decades or so. Failure factors is the opposite side of the coin. In lots of ways you can fail. But I think, the fact is, if it isn't there, it isn't there. But you need to know that. and be confident of that as quickly as you can. Fail efficiently and early if you can do it. Tick Hill, I think we did that. We put in place quite a few very intensive programs and realised that it just wasn't there. Similar problem at Broken Hill in New South Wales. That place has been explored for 100 years and nothing else except pinnacles has been found, which is quite an amazing thing considering the size of the ore body. This issue of conflict, of explorer and mine conflict and independence, I talked a bit about that. Operational complacency. We've got our reserves. What the hell do we want to do exploration for? How many times have we heard that stuff? The fact is, we can do better. We might be able to do better or do more. So give us a chance. A couple of other things. Your data is down the toilet. You haven't actually kept your data in good shape. You don't know what they did last year or the year before. Inadequate knowledge. So very poor R&D is a problem. There should always be a reasonable amount of R&D going on. New technology complacency I've seen quite a lot. People won't use the available technology and want to do things the old way. And dogmatic misunderstanding of the geology. You've all seen that before as well. So this idea of rethinking things. And then fatigue, cut the exploration budget yet again. So there's just a quick snapshot of some of the tactics and ideas, success and failure factors that I see in brownfields exploration. There's a lot wrapped up in that. But I'd like to take you to look at a couple of case studies from my recent past with Anglo in Africa, actually in South Africa and Namibia. And the first one I'd like to look at is Black Mountain operations, a fairly small, 40 million tonnes on Broken Hill type set of deposits in the Muckwa land. The original discovery, the Broken Hill there, 85 million tonnes, and the current operating mine is the Broken Hill Deeps. You can see the numbers there. And the unmined resource at Helzberg North nearby. Anglo sold the assets to Verdana in 2010, so thanks to Verdana for allowing me to use some of this information. The strategic challenge for for Black Mountain. Discovered, evaluated, brownfields exploration in the 70s and 80s and the 90s. They could see the end of the main Broken Hill lode. What the hell are we going to do? So discovery of Broken Hill Deeps in 98 came at just the right time, and we'll talk a bit about that. In the 2000s, district screening, Helzberg North was reworked, and then we were fortunate to discover Helzberg East as well. And the upcoming challenge for Black Mountain operations is bringing the Helzberg deposits into production in the next 10 or so years. Series of clipper or outcrops, Inselbergs of the local sequence, mostly metasands, quartzite schist, gneisses, etc., with a scattering of these Broken Hill type deposits shown there in the red dots. And Helzberg over to your right hand side. Okay, so Deeps, you can see the Broken Hill mine itself up to the top right hand corner there. Let's see if this will work. Yes, it does. So Broken Hill mine up in here at surface, first discovery. Naturally, you would look down plunge for your next set of ore bodies. This gap in here is real, very real. It was drilled, no mineralisation found. But in 1998, Potty Potgieter, the local champion and chief geologist at the time, insisted that the company do some deep drilling. Again, down plunge, quite brave. We're talking 1,500 metres or so. And that drilling actually did discover the Broken Hill Deeps and a rapid program of development and shaft sinking, 1,700 metre shaft, and that ore body was commissioned in 2005. Very illustrative, because if it wasn't for Potty Potgieter's interpretation and drive, this thing may well not have already been found. So the key driver here, desperate need to replace reserves, and then principal success factors, sound geological inter, good champion, backing from the business, putting money into it, and then a commitment to deep drilling and deep shaft sinking. Helzberg East is a slightly different proposition. This is that Inselberg to the east of the main operations. Helzberg North, a known asset, a known mineralisation. And under these very thick quartzites here to the east, there was a known structural position, but it had not ever been properly tested. a recumbent fold axis, a blind target under 400 metres of quartzite, historic EM work, and even some adjacent drilling, which suggested that there was economic mineralisation there. And if I show you this cross-section here, looking to the north, you can see this structural position in here was the target for our work. When I first arrived down here, this was one of the first things we took a look at. So the problem, deep, blind, probably only moderately geophysically responsive, but we had new technology, the Anglo's new low-temperature, proprietary low-temperature squid. The EM prototype was put together with string and literally string and duct tape, and we decided we should try using that as a tool, and it failed. The poor old thing fell apart up on the top of the mountain. So we brought in standard, more modern equipment, standard type of EM, and we got a response. Came back a few weeks later with the squid once it had been repaired in Germany, and we got some brilliant responses, as you can see in this top diagram here. That's a plan view of the responses of the Helzberg East massive sulphide deposit, and this pseudo section looking north again, some east dipping massive sulphide responders. So what happened here was that the EM, the standard EM located the deposit, but the liquids, the squid EM, really helped us to refine our targeting positions. The discovery drill hole, GAMD 13, September 2005, 40 metres of massive sulphide in two intersections, the main one being 9-10 metres at about 12%, and a broader intercept at 7.71% zinc. Key drivers of this discovery, which is now around about 30 million at around about 9 to 10% zinc. Key drivers, the idea was to build on the quality of what we already knew about at Helzberg North, and also to leverage new technology, which was the squid EM. And the principal success factors, you can read them there: excellent geology, some really good geology done by the local guys, technical innovation, exploration team independence. This would not have been drilled if we didn't have an independent budget. The mine was not even interested. It just wasn't on their agenda. But we could do it because we had independence from their thinking, persistence, as usual, and effective champions. Okay, the last example I'd like to show you is the second discovery we had in 3 years, Brownfields discovery, which is quite amazing. Next to the Anglo-Scorpion zinc mine in Namibia, in southern Namibia here, just over the border from South Africa. Scorpion is actually a zinc factory. The mine itself is a very minor part of the whole operation. Just in the background you can kind of see the mine in its early days. It's a massive AIG W.A hydromet process, mining zinc oxide material, so it's basically dirt with a lot of zinc in it. The mineralisation also formed the mineralisation Roche Pinard nearby, a VMS deposit, sulphide deposit, which is quite a substantial deposit in its own right. And the mineralisation is hosted in the Harit group, which is a very interesting package. And again, this asset was sold to Vedanta in 2010. The strategic challenge here was that Scorpion was commissioned in 2003, and it was known that the ore was going to be running out, and it just about has in 2014. In fact, it's gone to 2015 and maybe into 2016. But a massive investment in those days, $500 million on a hydromet plant, which is going to be stranded without more ore. We threw everything at it to try and locate more zinc oxide material, or even zinc sulphide material. And for several decades of campaign on exploration in this area, particularly on EPL 2229, the tenements around the Scorpion, actually failed to find any more mineralisation. So one of the things we did, what do we do now? Let's get outside of the EPL and look at other things. We've put in place a quite innovative, we think, reciprocal rights agreement with Roche Pinard Zinc, who held the tenements out to the east here. And in fact, the two architects of that, Nick Franey, who's up the back there, and myself, this was the basis for getting on other people's land. Roche Pinard Zinc's land. They could look on our ground for sulphides, and we could look on theirs for oxide. But in fact, it didn't matter really. We knew there was a soil anomaly, but the anomaly is right next to the road, House Road, the main road out of Roche Pinard. This was considered by our competitor to be contamination. We didn't believe this was the case. We did a whole lot of RAB work which tested the interface. It was undetected by our competitor. We had a coincident low temperature squid anomaly, as you can see in this little guy here. The initial RC test of this really good target ran out of rods. Can you believe it? 250 metres. The reciprocal rights agreement had 1 week to go, and we were busily negotiating that, and we could not get a rig for love of money until we begged the mine manager to release a rig from Scorpion to come down and test this target. And of course, as you all would all guess, 4 metres below the end of the RC hole with massive sulphides, and the blind discovery turned the discovery hole two ore horizons at those grades. And I don't have the full details. The current resource is about 18 million tonnes at very similar grades. So this is a great example of how persistence, all of the principal success factors are there. And the key driver being this need to really get a return on this fantastic investment in this very, very technically specialised plant. Persistence and more persistence, full support from everybody on the mine. It's a very good tactical thinking and mechanics, excellent understanding of the geology, particularly the regolith, which turned out to be crucial. Flexible deal, commercial deal, again, innovative thinking around how we'd get on with the job, and squid again played an important part, so new technology. So it was a great story, and this one really wraps up many of the things I would say about Brownfields Exploration. It's a great intellectual challenge. It's a favourable environment for creating value because you've got these opportunities to actually make use of that intellectual capacity. Key success factors, they're all there, you read them for yourself. I still think this idea of independence from the operation is very important, but always in cooperation with them. The failure factors, if it ain't there, I mean, what can you do? Just understand that. Dogmatic ideas, dogmatic focus on ideas, I think is wrong. It doesn't work for you, but bringing in new ideas is really important. And then I'd like to make a last point. I'm a great fan of greenfields exploration. If you think you can grow a business around brownfields, that's fine, you go ahead and do it. But if we're going to find the next generation of major mines, particularly company makers, you've got to get out there and apply some of this intellectual capability, the things you might learn in the brownfields environment, to greenfields environment, to even create even more value. And on that note, I'd just like to say that I have some acknowledgements up there. As usual, we always bring other people into our talk, so thank you very much for your attention.
We're a little pressed for time, but if anyone's got a quick question they'd like to ask of me, please do. Richard.
A very quick question. You talked about the personality of a brownfields person. Can you contrast that against the skill sets for a greenfield person? Can you transfer a greenfield person to a brownfield environment and vice versa, or do you look for some special skills?
I think you should transfer them in and out, because yes, they do have different skill sets. I see brownfields people as having the focus on information and interpreting and understanding information.
It's a data-rich environment.
Data-rich environment. So they're often very good at that sort of thing. And also their understanding of the economics of the mine. They know very well because they eat lunch with these guys. They hear their problems. They see the geology of the mine. They've been underground. So they have a very good sense of, what's the shape, size, what are some of the challenges of translating the mine to a surface environment before, what was it like before you were there. And so taking that in the greenfields is great, but bringing the greenfields guys back into it and saying, well, here's a challenge for you. You think you can find mines. Your risk profile is lowered here. Get it going into it. See what you can do with it. And I think everybody learns from translating both.
Agreed.
And a much more interesting career as well.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Can we put our hands together, please?